Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sporting Fan Podcast. Today I'm going to speak about the shock retirement of Ash Barty. I'm the first to admit, despite several family members playing tennis, I do not know much about tennis. However, I do know that Ash Barty is one of Australia's best ever tennis players, male or female. When I speak to people who know a bit about tennis, or a lot about tennis, they say that she's very technically correct. She's a very technically correct player, which is a little bit different to a lot of players today, which is more of a power game. Ash Barty is an all-round sportswoman. She won the Junior Wimbledon at age 15 in 2011, which just shows she didn't come from nowhere when she got to the top of the rankings. She didn't. She was a top junior. She was she didn't mature late. She's always been a very good player, and then so she's just come right through the ranks and done quite well. She originally, when she got to the seniors, she took some time off tennis, and she played in the WBBL for the Brisbane Heat in 2014, and she also plays golf. The reason she took some time off is because she said she just wanted to experience things that normal teenagers do and didn't want to be frequently travelling. She said that she'll end up burning out and that kind of thing, which is fair enough. It is a pretty demanding lifestyle, though, with that tennis players and golfers and, all sport professional athletes, it's pretty difficult, but when you're travelling week in, week out, it is physically demanding, so it does make sense that she wanted to just take a little bit of time off there. But when she came back, she originally came through and found success in doubles before she did in singles, and she has made several finals She made several finals, won tournaments in the doubles, and she was very successful in the doubles. And then before having success in the singles, she made the finals of every single Grand Slam in the doubles at one point or another, and she won the US Open in doubles in 2018, and which was her first Grand Slam in either singles or doubles, and it really just seemed to, that the shackles came off, and then she just really started to dominate, more in singles after that. It just seemed to give her confidence, and she just seemed to absolutely dominate everyone, and it really, onwards and upwards from there. In 2019, she started winning a lot of tournaments. She won her first singles Grand Slam, winning the French Open, and she ended up, and then she actually became the number one ranked female in the world, and the WTA rankings. And she just was winning a lot of tournaments, making a lot of finals, and performing extremely well in a lot of tournaments. She would very rarely perform poorly at a tournament. It was more of a shock when she did get knocked out early rather than not making it through to, a quarterfinal or a semi-final or a final. And one of these was unfortunately the 2020 Australian Open. She didn't have the best tournament that year, but, she took it in a stride, and she, kept motivating herself to perform better. But unfortunately she couldn't bounce back because COVID happened. And when COVID happened, she, which was March 2020, the end of March 2020, she decided to stay in Australia for the rest of the year. She wasn't going to play any other tournaments for the rest of the year. She just wanted to spend time at home, and which basically gave her a chance to refresh, do some things that are admittedly limited because she couldn't go out, she couldn't do other. Everyone was locked inside, so she couldn't really do anything, but like the rest of us. But she did manage to do a few things up in Queensland, where she's from. She spent a bit of time watching professional sport rather than playing it, such as the AFL. She famously went to the 2020 grand final, and which I believe Richmond, who she supports, were playing in, and she famously drank at that. So so it was. She had quite a good time at that. So yeah, she was. It was quite funny seeing her like that, and her team Richmond got up, so she did enjoy that quite a bit because the first time that the AFL Grand Final's ever been out of Melbourne, and she got to watch her team win it, so she did seem to quite enjoy that. And then, but she also used, but then when she did come back for the 2021 Australian Open. Again, like she didn't necessarily perform badly. It was just everyone else performed so well, and she didn't unfortunately win it. But but for the whole year, she just looked like she didn't take any time off. She just was dominating, like always making semi-finals, finals, winning tournaments. She won, and then she of course went on to win Wimbledon, which she said that she always wanted to win. So she won Junior Wimbledon, like I said, and then she won it as a senior as well, which she said was one of her main goals that she wanted to achieve as a player. And she said that she still had a little bit in the tank after that, but that was her main thing that she wanted to achieve. And then she also won a bronze medal at the Tokyo Olympics. So she had a really, really strong year. So, it just seemed like everything she did, it just seemed to turn to gold. And, she just performed so well, and she always did it with such grace as well. Like, she was always very respectful and that. So, yeah, she did quite well. But only 2 months after winning the Australian Open, she was the first. She won the Australian Open this year in 2022. She won it, was the first Australian to win it since Chris O'Neill in 1978. She was the first woman to win it. So, and she also won the Adelaide doubles. So everyone was like, she's ranked 1 in the world. She's just come off winning her home Open. She's won Wimbledon. She's won the French Open a few years ago. She's just on top of the world. She's just decimating everyone. She's, she surely is gonna, play for only 25 years old, turning 26 next month. Everyone was like, she could have another, 3 years 3 to 4 years at least, where she decimates the opposing players. She could win another, 5 or 6 majors, but she could have, a lot of people could reckon she could have won 9 or 10 majors, but then she said, "No, I'm done." And she said, when she was speaking in a retirement video with Casey Delacroix, a good friend Casey Delacroix, she said, "I'm done." She goes, physically spent, and didn't have the emotional want anymore. She just said she couldn't keep pushing herself. She was over it, and she wanted to basically live in one spot. She was over moving around, which is understandable. It is a quite demanding life. It's living out of basically a suitcase rather than living in one spot. If you look, for example, if like you're a a rugby player or a soccer player, or a basketballer, or most of these other, most of the team sports, you're based in one city. So yes, you might have away games where you're away for a week or two, but like sports like tennis, golf, cricket, and I say with cricket, if you're an regular international player like David Warner or what have you, you're away for a long period of time. You're very rarely home. You spend very little time at home, and it does get quite draining. And and so it's just like she's just said, I'm over it. I've just had enough. I've made enough. Well, she didn't say this, but she's won more than enough money to keep her happy. She doesn't need the money. She doesn't, So it's quite hard. She said it was getting too hard, and so then she said, I want to stop. So it was a bit of a shock. Like I said, it was a shock. Because she was, like I said, she was winning. She was dominating oppositions. It wasn't like, by all accounts, she's fit. It wasn't like she's had, a really bad injury or something. Like she's, for example, if she hasn't done an ACL or something, or had a really bad arm injury or something where. If she did her ACL, she may, not be able to stop anymore without it potentially buckling or basically getting a bad shoulder or arm injury where she basically, had no strength on her arm. She couldn't hit the ball. Like, there was nothing like that. She was she was fit. She was winning, and she goes, I'm done. So, yeah, a lot of people said that. A lot of people were surprised. And apparently, your inner circle knew, but other than that, no one saw it coming. It is a shame because she was such a highly regarded player. And she was much loved in Australia. It's a shame. But she seems to be, content with her decision. She seems very happy. She's in a good headspace. I doubt she would completely leave tennis, though. I think she will still be around the scenes. I can't see her just saying, I'm done, I'm over it, see you later. I don't want anything to do with tennis. You'd probably find that she stays around in some aspects, such as coaching, commentating, or doing administration roles, promotion roles within Tennis Australia. And yeah, she leaves the game in a good spot. She can do whether she does stay within tennis or not, doesn't matter. I reckon she'll be successful in whatever she does. She speaks well. She's very likable, very respectful, and yeah, like just a bit of her highlights of her career. 3-time major singles champion, 1-time major champion in doubles. She's actually only the second. Surprisingly, she's only the second Australian woman to be ranked number 1 in the world since rankings began. People will say, oh, what about Margaret Court? Well, there wasn't rankings. Back then, Margaret Court is obviously won the most Grand Slams of any woman player ever. She won 24 majors. But there was no rankings then. The other Australian that won it was actually another Aboriginal. Another Aboriginal woman was Yvonne Goolagong Crawley, who, fun fact, Yvonne Goolagong, I believe, actually is related to Latrell Mitchell, the South Sydney player, and two-time premiership winning player with the Sydney Roosters. That just as a side note, talking about Yvonne Goolagong Crawley there. But yeah, she's only the second Australian woman, both Aboriginals, which just goes to show how their contribution to Australian sport. A lot of Aboriginals are very, across the board, there've been so many very gifted Aboriginal athletes, and she was, another one, and she speaks well. She was always consistent. She was always, she very rarely had an off day. She was always there or thereabouts when she was playing, and even when she did have an off day, she would always make it positive for, she would always not make it about herself. She would always be respectful of the opposition, say, they did well. She would always congratulate them, which is a nice change from a tennis champion, because, there's been a certain, women champions in the past, especially recently, that, if they lost, it's because I had an off day. It wasn't because her opponent was better. Ash Barty was always saying, she played better than me today. Today was the day that she, she had a good day. And, she always congratulated them, and she always thanked them regardless. So even if she won or lost, she was always respectful to them and thanked them, and which is why so many people liked her. And that's why a lot of sponsors liked her. For example, there was the here in Australia they had the famous Barty Mite, which is a Vegemite promotion where they used her name, and that was the thing. That's why so many sponsors loved her as well, because she was so likable and so marketable and so down to earth. As for where she goes from here, only she really knows. She said that she's achieved everything in tennis that she wanted to achieve, and tennis has treated her well financially, meaning that as long as she's been smart with her money, she can put her feet up and do whatever she likes. She should be, basically living off her investments. If she wants to stay with family and raise a family, she can do that quite well. I reckon she'd be a really good mum, because she seems so down to earth and so nice, so polite. I reckon she would be a great mum if that's the way she's going. And I really hope she, whatever she does choose to do, she's successful at it, and she does well. And yeah, she's a great role model. Is, and I reckon she'll always will be a great role model. And I really hope she's inspired some young girls and boys as well to come through the tennis and keep active and show that they can be successful on the world stage. Because she should have the attitude, because she's not the biggest girl in the world. She, you look at a lot, people like, Naomi Osaka and Serena Williams. You look at, Victoria Azarenka, Sharapova, and all that. I know, they're coming at the end of their career. Some of those are coming at, Naomi Osaka's at the start of her career, but, they're all big, strong girls. They're all 5'10", 6 foot, 6'2" girls, and they're also strong and a lot more powerful than what she is. But she was able to not only compete, but be competitive with these girls. And she said she was able to not only compete but beat them. So she follow your goals, work hard, and you might be able to get there. And I reckon good on her. And wherever she goes from here, I really hope she's successful at it. And I hope you all enjoyed her career. Listening, a lot of people did enjoy it, and I hope you all join me in wishing her all the best in her future. And until next time, thank you for listening to my thoughts on the Ash Barty retirement.